All right, now for the last video, we're going to be working on solving equations, okay? And so like number 37 was one that I worked out with some people because this one had a cube root on it. And it also had that -4 on the same side as the radical. And so with these kind of problems, what you want to do is get the radical part isolated. So I want to move that 4 out of the way. So since it was minus, I added 4. So then I'm at the point where I have the cube root of 5x plus 1 equaling a positive 4. All right, so now I'm going to cube both sides. And the reason I'm cubing is that's what it would take to undo a cube root. Raise both sides to the third power. Then I'm going to get a 5x plus 1 here on the left and a 64 here on the right. Okay. So now we just have this turned out to be linear at this point. Sometimes it'll be quadratic, but it's linear. So I'll just subtract 1. I get 5x equaling 63. Divide by 5. And I get x equaling 63 over 5. All right, now normally you have to be sure to check radical equations. Cube roots really aren't an issue, but you shouldn't really know that yet because you're just new to this. So you should go ahead and check your radical equations just to be sure. Okay, and so this would be cube root of 63 plus 1, which is 64. And the cube root of 64 is 4. And so it does check. So you know that you're right on that one. All right, I'll do one more of those, and then you can work on the other two and compare your answers to the answer key I posted in document sharing. And then if you have questions, you can be working on that and ask me if you need to. All right, the last one I want to do looks like this. So it has a square root, and the square root's already isolated. So we're just going to come in and square both sides. Okay, which gets me to there. And then I'm going to subtract the 4x and subtract the 12 from both sides. So that's going to give me x squared minus 4x minus 12 equals 0 on the right. All right, and the reason I did that is this turned out to be quadratic. So I needed to get a 0 on one side. And then I'm going to either factor or use the quadratic formula. And I definitely want to try factoring first. 6 and 2 should work. Minus on the 6, plus on the 2. I double checked it and it worked. So we set those equal to 0. And we wind up getting these two answers. Now, this is a problem that sometimes people get completely wrong when really they did all that work. And so they're basically right. That's part of the reason you're showing your work. The answer to this one doesn't turn out to be both of these because when we check it, if we plug in a 6, we need to be sure it works because we could have done everything correctly, but you sometimes get what are called extraneous solutions. That happens when you square both sides. You sometimes get things that work up to a point back to here, but they just don't work in the original. So you have to ask yourself, does it really work? And that's why radical equations have to be checked. So you're checking that. So see, this is 24 plus 12, and the principal square root of 36 is 6. That one's good. But over here, we get a negative 8 plus 12, which is positive 4, and the square root of 4 is a 2, and that's not negative 2. So that didn't check. You would not include that in your answers. And sometimes both work, sometimes neither work, and sometimes one works and the other doesn't, and it's not always the negative one that doesn't work. But on this problem, the solution would only be 6, okay? All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and do 40 on here because it's pretty quick, and I've already told people that number 40 is on your final, so make sure you know how to do it. You're given this equation, and it's given to you in what we call function notation. So f of x is just like the old days when you had a y. That's what it really means. And so when they ask you to find f of negative 4, what they're really doing is saying if x is negative 4, find the y. Basically what you do is everywhere there was an x, you're going to plug in negative 4. Whatever this is, that goes in there everywhere there is an x. And then you just work it out. So this is 3 times 16 plus 8 minus 4. So that's 48 plus 8 minus 4, which is 56 minus 4, or 52. Okay? All right, so that kind of ends the problems I'm going to do on the review for the final. And then you've got the answers posted in document sharing. So you work on the rest of them and really write them out and do a good job so you have that when you go to take your final exam. Okay? And I expect you to work out the problems on the final exam in a similar manner, in a logical way, with all steps shown. If you skip steps, go from the beginning to the end. Don't expect to get full credit, okay? All right, but I really hope you'll study hard and work to learn this, and I hope everyone does well on the final.